What's up, everybody? Welcome to Freeladyco. We're on episode 32 with Ryan Wheeler, everybody.
Yeah, how are you? This is awesome. I love it.
Yeah, man. I'm so stoked you're here. Ryan has an amazing story that I actually got to hear at Lions Den Live last year. That's how I met him. He was also interviewed by our friend Nick Hoffer on Instagram Live. That was the first interview I actually saw on Instagram was yours. And
Oh,
I was like,
nice.
dude, this guy's into cars. I like cars. And then you're telling your story. And I was like, yeah, this is sweet. And then
Yeah.
you got up on stage and I was like, what? So beautiful,
Yeah,
beautiful story. And we're
yeah,
here
that
to
was terrifying.
I hope
Like,
to be on that stage this year. I have been dreaming about it since last year. And because I'm so terrified and scared, because I did get on stage at one point when Finley was on there and Jeremy Finley.
yeah,
And
yep.
yeah, for the box.
The box, yeah.
Yeah. And I was like this. Because I knew I hate being on stage,
Yeah.
and so I was like, I'm just gonna go, I don't know what I'm doing, and then I got in trouble for not even breaking the box. I had this small box and it was so thick. I was like, yeah, I don't want to fall over and make myself look like an idiot and fall on my face, right?
Yep. Yeah, that stage is terrifying. And that
Oh,
was kind of the thing too. Sean had reached out to me. He's like, hey man, I got a spot on the stage for you. And I'm like, yeah, dude, bro, tell me when I'll be there. And
yeah,
then he's like, no, for real, I'm gonna set you up with my people and they're gonna do their thing.
yeah. It was
Like,
amazing.
oh, like, okay, yeah, I'm in. And they had given me like, what is it? They're like, it's 5 minutes. And he's like, you just have to change one person's life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I don't know what to do. Like, this is crazy. And then I got iced. I was supposed to go the first day. I was all ready. Everything was ready. And then actually Eric Spofford had spoke,
Oh yeah,
who
man.
now I've stayed close with him. He spoke, and then I'm like, dude, what am I doing? Like, I need to just tell it real how it
Yeah.
was and quit trying to play like try not to have it be like too aggressive for some people, even though I know like the people there, you know what I mean? It was like this
Yeah.
weird, I didn't know what to do. And then after hearing him, and then they didn't let me go the first day because the time ran out. So then I had to go
Oh,
back to our hotel room and I just scratched the whole thing and was like, I'm changing it. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's what Sarah Follies talks about all the time is just like you just like all these interviews I do, I just go unscripted because it's not what we want to say or what we write down what we want to say. Whatever comes out of our mouth is what that person listening needs to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's super, super important. And so, we're going to start off with three things that we're grateful for. And number one, I'm grateful for Lions Den Live because of all these relationships. This is what got me started on my YouTube channel. I'm really grateful for Ann Travis for fighting through her brain tumor. And I don't know if you've heard, I
Yes.
mean, like so emotional. She's such a fucking badass, powerful woman. And she's a warrior, man. I'm so grateful for prayer. And so that, leads me to prayer and God and what all these things. And so it's just incredible. So you can share one or three things, Ryan, what you're grateful for today.
Oh man, I would yeah, I could stay right kind of in your groove there is yeah, I'm definitely thankful for kind of Lions Den in general, more
Yeah.
than just even the live. Like the live was awesome at so many people, but just the Lions Den. I don't stay super connected inside the den. I go back and watch when I can.
Yeah.
But then I've stayed super connected with the people, so I'm not always in there posting, but I've gotten so many good, solid, like really good people
Yeah.
out of the den. So that's definitely one. I would say two for me would be just my family, kind of everything. I had some health stuff this last year that I'm still kind of working on going through.
Yeah.
And that's been like, I feel great. Everything's been good. And again, then that comes down to kind of your prayer and God and just the
Yeah.
whole thing, because that's really powerful. I'm gonna add one more. I have so I started a year-long volunteering to mentor with someone through Adult Teen Challenge. And I was like, I didn't really know what I was getting into. I had no idea. And then today I got to meet. So this has been like 4 weeks of like things building up to this till I got to actually meet my mentee, the dude I'll be working with for one full year.
Wow.
And I was sitting outside and I was like, just said a little prayer. And I'm like, God, just please let me connect. Like, let this be someone who needs me, and I got in there and I met him today, and he's like exactly lived like through my story that I've already lived. He's young, he's into cars. And I'm like,
Oh man.
I walked out of there and I was just like, I called my wife and I'm like, babe, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be doing. And it was so powerful.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So that's definitely something that's been a huge, huge win, something I'm very grateful for today.
That's so cool. I want to do something like that. That's awesome. You're gonna have to share with me how to get involved with that, something like that. Cause I just think like anybody, I just want to help people, just like how you want to help, what you did to help yourself through your life to get to where you are today. And then you get turned around and help this little dude, man. That's a beautiful 360 right there.
Yeah.
So what I want Ryan to share with you guys today is Ryan's past life and how
Sweet.
he got to, where he got to today. So Ryan, like, tell us like who you are, what you do, and talk about where you came from.
Sweet. Well, I will, yeah. So this is not, we don't script none of this. So you're getting it just exactly how it is.
Yeah.
I own a commercial construction company now. That's kind of that's my main thing. I've tried a bunch of different things. I had a t-shirt shop and a personal brand and a whole bunch of things that I've worked on really hard that haven't quite panned out, but the construction company has been kind of my solid. That's been doing really good for quite a while. And that runs, I do a lot in the business, but I'm more hands-on. I don't have to go physically work in the business anymore.
Yeah.
That
Awesome.
often. Yeah. So that's my main thing. And then I have my Instagram, which is kind of a big outlet for me. And then I also have a YouTube channel as well. So I do car content and kind of trying to convert it sort of. I mean, with YouTube, it's like no joke. It's so much work. It's so hard. And it's like the most challenging thing I've ever done is
Same.
trying to build a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And I've been blessed. I've been blessed with some amazing people I've hooked up with and gotten to go out and film with. And I've done it very, very strategically, but it's worked. And yeah, now we're heading I will be going out to California in like 3 days. And then I'll be driving to Vegas. My car's getting shipped out tomorrow to Las Vegas to be on a TV show. So yeah,
Cool.
yeah,
Your Lambo?
I'm like terrified. I have no idea how it's going to work. And
Oh, that's
so,
so cool.
yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, Ryan is like totally into cars. His Instagram name is Lambo Dad. It speaks for itself. I've grown up with my uncle who owns his mechanic shop now. He's been a mechanic for 30 years. And I love cars too. I don't know all the ins and outs of cars, but like I can look at them and be like, damn, that's sexy. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, damn, that's sexy. I want to drive that thing
Yeah.
all over the place. So if you guys are into cars, he's like, he can go on for days.
Yep.
But Ryan, you had a past that you had to really work through to get to where you are today. So talk about like your history with addiction, because this is what our episode is about, and how he persevered to becoming a free man, literally sitting on his hat right now, you guys. And Ryan's a badass motherfucker today. I know that I've seen it. And so yeah, tell us your history and like how you got through that.
Yeah. So I don't know how far back you want to go, but kind
Wherever
of
you
one
want
of
to
the things
go.
I kind of like to talk about is that like my upbringing wasn't some. I didn't grow up in like a drug house. I didn't grow up in I actually grew up in a really good home. My parents did get divorced. I had a stepdad he had suffered with some drug and alcohol stuff. And then he had actually had relapsed because of one of his businesses and stress and all that stuff. And he had relapsed and he had gone back into drugs and he was actually had been killed by them. So I literally watched firsthand one of my favorite people in the world go through exactly what I put myself on the path for. So to be like, to watch that and to see that, like when I was younger and when I watched it all, I'm like, okay, well, this is terrible, but now at least I know this is one thing I never will go down this path.
Right.
And then as I got a little bit older and I got into, I was in the commercial roofing industry. I got in right at 17 years old and I started doing that and I always could work hard and I could always outwork people. but it real quickly got, like, it was a super, super toxic environment. And I have an addictive personality. So as soon as I got old enough to gamble, I was gambling. I'd lose and I say lose everything, like it'd be like $800, but that was everything. That
Right.
was everything I had. And I had no issues when I was at the casino spending, knowing that I literally, if I did not win, I could not put gas in my car to drive home. And but I would go and I would spend every dollar, and I'd be like, all right, I get back to work. I got to go borrow some money, and I'd work my way through that. And then that transferred over, it's smoking weed when you're younger, because that was like what you did in high school, selling weed in the bathrooms. I ended up, my stepdad did pass away when I was, would have been between, coming into, I think, the end of my junior year.
Wow.
And yeah, so I had missed over 10 days of school in a row, and I didn't like to be at school. Like, my buddies were there. I could go hang out with, them, but I didn't care for the curriculum of school. I liked people. I liked talking. I liked trying to make a couple bucks in the bathroom, selling weed in the bathroom. But like, the school thing it just wasn't my jam. And I just didn't connect with that. I didn't like sitting still. I liked moving around, and if you showed me something, I could put my hands on it, I could do it.
Right.
But that, my stepdad passed away, and then I had to do like an appeal, because I'd missed over 10 days, and my appeal went granted. And then the last person was like, no, and it has to be unanimous. And so my appeal got denied. So I was going to lose all my credits from that year. So it was going to push my graduating class. I was going to push me out a whole nother year to be able to accomplish those. Yeah. And I didn't care for it already. It just wasn't, I don't know, just wasn't my thing.
Right.
And so my mom and dad had to come in. They had to have a meeting, and they were threatening them. And they're like, we could take you guys to jail because of truancy and all this stuff.
Right.
And my dad kind of got into it with one of the big dogs at the school. And my dad made the decision. He's like, this ain't your spot. So I dropped out. I went and got my GED. And that was like, I took the GED test, and like, you had to do the studies, and I'd go do the studies, and I'd pass them all. And they're like, you're like pretty smart. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I just don't like this. I just am not a fan of this. So I took my GED test, scored highest in Minnesota in that year.
Wow.
On my GED test. So I've got, like, somewhere in here, I've got my plaque. So I had it framed and everything for my GED. Just kind of a little bit of a fuck you to a lot of people, because I was always looked at.
System?
What's that?
And the educational system?
Yeah, just kind of just sort of a little, you can do it without that, without formal education. So yeah, and then from there went on, it was a lot of smoking weed and just kind of hanging out. And then really, when I got into like the drinking, we drank, underage, but then when we could get out to like the bars and like really go out and have fun, then that kind of brought in a whole nother, kind of realm of drugs. And and then it became, the drinking was really part of my life. And then in the trades, working, commercial construction, like that was really all we did. So if we'd have a rain day, we're at the bar. And for a lot of people, that is how it started. We were just drinking, we were just going out, and then, I'd make it home, and I'd fight with my, my girlfriend, which is now my wife.
Yeah.
And it just kind of escalated. And then when that's all you do every day, kind of all day, and then it got into more of the drugs, and then it all just kind of kept snowballing. So then it started really taking a toll. My wife and I had then gotten married. We had our son, and I was working a ton. I'm like, man, I got to be working. And then I would be lying nonstop about, yep, I'm working late. She's like, it's dark. And then she's like, I can hear that you're at a bar. And I know I'm not. And I just shut my phone off, and get home. If I could get home, I'd drive drunk. I got pulled over, hammered a couple times, and got super lucky or super blessed to not have something bad happen driving. There was a lot of those times. Yeah. And then it just kept going and getting worse and worse. And then it got to where it wasn't like I was hanging out with people to like have a social good time. It was, we were drinking in the morning, kind of all day. I was
Right.
actually running a crane, like a big crane truck,
Yeah.
lifting
Yeah.
equipment over guys and stuff. And all while, drinking and doing drugs.
Yeah, it's
So,
crazy.
yeah.
It's interesting because last week's episode was with my like dear family friend who's been sober for 25 years. And like he grew up in a really great household too. And it's just kind of like I don't want to put this like feeling on construction, right? But he was in construction too. And it's just like a lot of those dudes like just drink and do drugs, and it just becomes like an everyday thing because you're used to that. And then you need more and more and more. And
And
guess
it,
what? You do drugs, and you can do all kinds of shit, you know?
yeah. And then the other thing is
Yeah.
when those are your people and you spend each day with them,
Right.
you take someone that works in a bank, like they fall into kind of that world of those are their people, and they kind of
Right.
do what bankers do, and then
Right.
they'll catch a happy hour here and there, and then they celebrate the weekend being here because like, oh, stressful week at work,
Right.
like kind of that 9 to 5, to
Yeah.
me is a little bit of a trap. That's why when I got out of that, it was like I never had a 9 to 5 though. Like in construction, it was either a 4 in the morning till 6 at night, or
Right.
a 6 in the morning till 7 because we couldn't work. Like you never knew what your day looked like.
Right.
So then a lot of times it gave us a bunch of free time to where it's like, well, I'm not going to go home because this is before, a lot of people worked at home before COVID. Like,
Right.
I'm like, oh, nobody's at home. Let's go to the bar. And then you'd end up
Yeah.
at the bar for 12 hours and everybody knows you. It's like your place. It's like your safe
Right.
place.
So it's almost like you're throwing away your money to gambling, and then you're throwing your money away to alcohol, and then the lies. I mean, it's just so destructive whether you see it at that moment or not. You're lying to yourself, you're not loving yourself, and therefore you can't completely love your kid, your wife, or anything that you're doing. But you don't, it's hard to recognize that and see that.
Yeah, because you don't see it when you're actually inside it. Because you
No.
don't, like, I didn't look at that like I've got some sort of a problem. I looked at it like, well, everyone else is doing, like, I'm just doing
Right.
what we all do. Like it never seemed like a big deal.
Right.
And then it got to where, I mean, my wife and I actually just did a podcast, first podcast I've ever gotten her to do with me.
Oh, that's so cool.
And it'll go out like this next week. And that was really, really hard for me to do. Cause like we've talked a lot about everything.
Yeah.
But for me to sit and really listen and truly listen to
Mm,
her
mhm.
feelings from going through that and how big of a piece of shit I was towards her.
Right.
I mean, it's embarrassing because even now I'm like, how did I do that? Like, how was I like that to her who is like and I think part of that is why like I try so hard now to give her the best life she could ever dream of,
Yeah.
because I'm like, dude, you stayed with me through all of it. Like she was
Right.
our only real money for years after I quit my job. So we'll go a little bit into that.
Yeah.
She had gotten where she was kind of at her end. And then it would be like we'd go all week and we'd fight and fight and fight and fight because I wouldn't come home or I'd be drinking. Then the weekend would come and I'd be like, all right, like I promise, like I'm going to work on this. So like the weekends were actually kind of where I would calm down then,
Oh,
especially once we had our son. She went straight into mom mode. Like, because we used to drink together. We'd have a lot of fun drinking together. She went into mom mode. I went into like, well, I got to keep working to feed this baby now that we've got and like keep a roof over our head.
right.
And this is where the guys are that I work with. So I got to stay out. And yeah, it was no good. And she kind of gave me like ultimatum after ultimatum after ultimatum. And she would tell me like, this isn't going to fly. And then I would be like good for like a few days.
Right.
And then I'd be like, hey, I just like, I went to the bar, but I only had one drink. She said, why did you go to the bar at all?
Right.
And I'm like, well, it's only one drink. Like, you want to fight? And I was the best like in the world at causing little tiny things irk her just enough to get her a little bit mad at me to where she snapped. And then I could just go off the deep end. Oh, whatever, you're a psycho, I'm leaving.
Right. It
And
was
it
almost
was,
like you knew that was the answer because you're used to that, right? You're used to that. And it was like, well, if I do this, like I can get out.
yep. And that was, I knew how to trigger her. I
Right.
could get her, I could just pick right at it to the point of where we could fight enough that I just had a good reason to consciously be like, all right, I'm out of here. I'm
Right.
leaving.
Right.
And like, what a douchebag thing to do. Like, I
Yeah.
look at it now. It's like, oh, come on. Like,
Right. But it's
really?
part of your growth. It's part of your
Yeah.
history. And like, it's part of becoming who you are today, you know? And like, I mean, of course it's going to be embarrassing when you look back on it, but you're like, you know what? I'm not that person anymore. And that's fucking badass,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And that's where I have to look at it. And now, and then, like I said, like I spend so much time to
Right.
just try to make sure she, knows that like, hey, I'm here. Like I'm not going nowhere.
Right.
The trust level we have now, I mean, she definitely, for how much she trusts me, like we would never have this level of trust without, if I was still drinking and like
Yeah.
there'd be no
No,
way. No,
no.
no. So, yeah, she had given me a bunch of ultimatums and it had got like worse and worse in the fighting. It got worse and worse. And she had finally made the decision. She was like, she had enough. And we had
Yeah.
talked divorce. And I mean, I remember talking to her about, well, yeah, well, I want him this day or this day. And she's like, no, absolutely not. You're not here for him now. Why would you get him on holidays and whatever? But I was trying to put up a fight of what I wanted, but not really putting up a fight to keep her around
Right.
or him because
Right.
I really couldn't handle them at the
Right.
time because of all my own shit. And then, yeah, I got the partying got just as we got worse, I partied harder and harder. And it wasn't even, I say partied, it wasn't like we're out at nightclubs partying. This was like the kind of dirty partying where you're not hanging out with a bunch of people. You're just trying to get your fix and
Yeah.
trying to get your,
Yeah.
cravings all, and really just trying to get as far out of reality as you possibly
Exactly.
can.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just trying to run away from all of because it was painful. Everything I was going through was painful.
Right.
I was bringing it on myself, but it hurt. Like it
Yeah.
was hard to go through. And she had moved out. And so I remember like going back to the house and like her not being there and her stuff and his stuff. And I'm like, oh, like that hit me. And that was like, made it kind of real. And then it's crazy because when I remember like this, how it all went. And
Yeah.
after I talked with my wife just this last week about on this podcast,
Yeah.
talking about really the story,
Mm-hmm.
there were things that I remember that she remembers differently than how I remember them. Because
Wow.
I was always in a state of, I mean, I was all over the place and I was really
Right.
good at making my brain like get on my side. You know what I mean? Like, and being able to justify things. So,
Yeah.
which is really super dangerous because like
Yes.
when she
Yes.
started explaining to me, I'm like, holy shit, like, you're right. Like now that I think about it, when you say that, you're totally right.
Yeah.
I had remembered her not living there anymore when I had came home that next morning after the night. But she's like, no, we were living there. She's like, they had moved out and I had talked her into moving back in. And
Mm-hmm.
so her and my son were staying back at the house
Right.
and we got in. I don't remember what had even happened leading up to it. I remember it was a Thursday night and I had went out and we were fighting and I went out and like just was partying to like literally partying to die pretty much.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was, I mean, it was the worst night of my life. And yeah, I shared that. It's crazy. The first time I shared this story was at Lions Den Live. It's the first time I shared it like publicly anywhere.
Yeah. I
And
remember.
that's the first time my wife ever heard it because someone in the audience sent her a recording of it because she didn't want, and I had told him he could, like I had told him,
Of course.
that he could send it to her. But so here I am out in Utah. She's back home in Wisconsin and watches that whole 5 minutes and then gets and hears really what she didn't want to. I've told her since we were first back together, like, I'm an open book now. I've gone to rock bottom and I have nothing to hide.
Yeah.
So what do you want to know? And she just could not stomach hearing what I put myself through.
Wow.
So yeah, so that night we were out. I was out with some guys from work, and there was one of them had ecstasy, and I'm like, dude, it was pretty normal to have ecstasy around, but it had been a little while since I had done it.
Yeah.
And I used to do it all the time. It was just something you'd function on.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember taking a couple of them, and he's like, dude, careful. They're good. And I'm like, yeah, everybody says that they're good. They haven't been good for 2 years. They haven't been good. You know, nobody's got good stuff around here. And took 2, and then we were drinking pretty heavily. I was doing coke because that was just kind of the norm.
Right.
And then I had taken 2 more, and then 2 more. And then I think I took 1. I ended up having like 6 or 7. And then I looked, I'm like, dude, these are doing nothing to me.
Oh, shit.
And I remember he's like, it's been like 30 minutes. And I'm like, oh, and then all of a sudden it all started like compounding, like boom, boom. It was just insanity. Like all of a sudden now I'm just rolling balls. There's nothing I could do. This is still in like the late afternoon. So there's like the bar we're at, there's like people there having dinner with their families.
Oh shit.
And here I am. Oh yeah, dude, just completely rolling balls to the point of where it got like a little scary. But what I had remembered, what I always could do is I knew exactly how to do coke. I could offset and right. And then I was drinking. We were drinking a ton too. So I'm like, I'll be able to take care of this. And we partied for a while. It had got dark out. We had gone out to my truck, and I had a metal clipboard that I would always keep in my truck. And then that's what we'd chop up all our shit on. And the guy I was with had never had his own shit with. And he was on the clipboard and he was chopping up like a big pile. And I'm like, no way. He's going to actually put his up. Like for once I get to not just do mine. I'm like, this is sweet. Well, I had a bunch of my own, and I'm like, in my brain, I'm like, it'd be funny is if I just snorted his whole pile, like one shot, and then I'll just replace it with mine, but it'll be funny because he'll never expect it. And he'll be, and so the opportunity came, and I leaned over and I snorted an entire pile and like instantly knew, yeah. And it ended up being meth. It wasn't coke. And I'd never done, meth was like not my jam. Like I wasn't into that.
Right.
Yeah. And it was like instantly. And I'm like, holy shit. Like now what? What do I do now? And then the rest of it just got worse and worse and worse and worse. And then I ended up back in an apartment, and it got
not your rock bottom, all that shit in one night.
Yeah. So then and I remember like talking about like we should probably like someone needs to call 911. Like someone needs to, like I've got to, like this is feeling like it's it. And I remember right up to the end of, and I was like sure that this was it. And I remember being like, and by this time I'd kind of turned my back on God. Like I was growing up in the church, but I'm like, that ain't for me. Right. And I remember like laying there, and I was like, all right. And I had like a bro talk to God. And I was like, dude, bro, if you're real, like one time you could just give me just one shot here. Like I promise, like on everything that I will never, like I will change every single thing about my life. And I will never be a piece of shit. I will change everything, and I'll change the damn world. I'll do anything. I was like pleading. And, and then I remember the last thing before I blacked out was I just remember thinking like, at least I never have to see my gorgeous wife happy with another man, because if I'm not here, I'll never have to see it. Cause I knew that's where it had got to. Like I knew she was going to be a prize for somebody.
Yeah.
I just couldn't, it wasn't for me. And so I was like, well, if I'm dead and I'm gone, I never have to see that. And I remember that was it. And I was like completely at peace with that. And then And then I don't know, 3, 4, or 5, hours later, I like came to, and I'm like, oh, hell no. Like, now what?
Yeah.
And there was the place that I was at was pretty much emptied out. There was like nothing. I found my phone. My phone was dead. I searched around, find my keys. The stuff that I was wearing, like I had to put on some other like clothes and some little white shirt. Like I couldn't find so the people that were in there had thought that I had died and had left and taken like personal stuff out.
Wow.
So then I'm like, dude, like fuck all these people, like, and now I got to figure out, I don't even know where my truck is. I don't know. I'm completely fucked up still at this point. Like I'm a complete wreck. I'm my holy, like, I just need to get out of here, get me out of this town, get me back to my house. And, I got back to my house and there was divorce papers and they were all filled out. And cause this was the part that was off for me. When I first was like sharing my story, I'm like, yeah, my wife had moved out. She's like, no, I had moved back. She's like, I was there that night. You were supposed to come home to talk with me and you didn't. She's like, that's why all of the divorce papers were sitting there waiting for you. She's like, because I was done. And she had prayed so hard. And it's crazy because when I put kind of the timeline together of her side of the story and what was happening at my life at that time, I was praying to live and she was praying for strength to live without me. And like, yeah. And so she woke up in the morning. I wasn't home still. And she said she was just at peace. Like for the first time in a long time was just at peace that she's going to be okay without me. She's going to raise our kid. She's going to like, life's going to be good and she's going to make it. And, she's like, I prayed and I was finally at peace knowing that you and me were not going to work. And then here I come rolling in the next morning. She's not there anymore. There's divorce papers. I ripped those up. And I remember texting her. I got my phone plugged in. And first of all, the first thing my phone turned on, there was a text message. And when they first turn on, it doesn't show who's it from yet.
Yeah.
Didn't have, all it had was numbers. So it didn't come up as anybody. And it was just a picture. It said, when you're down to nothing, God's up to something. And I'm like, I remember setting my phone down. I'm still a fucking hot mess. And I set my phone down and I'm just like crying, like, what has happened? How is my life right here? And I text my wife and I'm like, last night was insane, but I have changed. I promise you, like I've screwed up so many times. Like I just laid it all out there. And I got back in big capital letters, fuck you. And I'm like, oh, shit. I kind of knew that, I knew that was the answer.
Right.
So yeah, then it was like, it was go time. Then it was work time. So I had to just go to work on trying to not drink, not like, it was so hard because I didn't know how to do anything that involved drinking. I quit my job. I was making almost $40 an hour. And I put in my 2-week notice. And then I had to tell my wife once we were finally kind of talking, like, yeah, I quit my job too. Like, what? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, it's toxic. It's going to kill me. Right. It's going to will never work. And she took it. I mean, she took it well for, I think she noticed at that point that like, I was pretty fucking serious about this. And yeah, then it was just wild. I mean, it was so much, there was so much I had to do. And then there was so much trying to get back into like life. Like, what is it like? How do you even go to dinner and not drink? I can't even step foot in a bar because I'm embarrassed now because I have to tell them I don't drink, and like all these mental hurdles to get over. And I didn't know anything about personal development. I know nothing about self-help. I didn't have any groups of people that I knew to join. Like I had nothing.
Right.
So I was just raw dogging it. Like, hey, let's like, I just got to get good at this. But it was crazy because in my brain, I knew like, I'm done drinking. And I remembered thinking like, I'm just going to do like a year and I'm going to low key try to like, if I can get through a year, like then I'll know I'm good. Yeah. And then went through all of those phases there's so many emotional phases of when you quit something that was like part of your identity. Right. And then I remember like that year came and I'm like, holy shit, like my skin looks different. Like I feel better. My marriage is actually working. Like I like my kid. I love my fam. Like this is
Yeah.
kind of wild. And then it's like, okay, well, let's just give it some more time, like let's keep going. Why would we go back? And now I mean, over 9 years. And
Wow.
yeah, now I'm at a point in my life where, like, without a shadow of a doubt, I know, and I've thought about this, and this is actually something I've had dreams about, is Ed Milet asking me to speak with him, like on his show, and him offering me, like, he drinks, but he does not drink to go get all tuned up. He drinks like a responsible, wealthy person
Right.
and drinks very expensive, whiskeys or whatever he's into. But I have this dream, and I had it for a while. It was like a nightmare of making the decision if Ed Milet were to be like, here, try this. Like, this is something special I take out for my guests. And like being in that position and not knowing what to do,
How
because I know mentally I could handle drinking this one time and then not doing it anymore.
right.
But and then the other side of me is like, but why would you ever do that when life has gotten so damn good
Right.
since you quit drinking? And then I wake up in a complete terror because I'm so torn. And I'm like, this is so crazy. But I know what I would do. I would be like, no, dude, I don't drink. And
Yeah.
he'd be like, awesome. I respect that.
Oh, he totally would be. It's funny that like
Yeah.
you have that dream because if you guys don't know who Ed Milet is, absolutely look him up. He is the fire, the light of life. He is so amazing with his passion of helping people. He's beautiful. And but it's kind of interesting that that is your vision with the alcohol, where it's kind of like that old self is coming back into play of embarrassment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that old self is trying to come back and you're fighting it. And so it's like you waking up and you're just like, what the heck? Of course I would fight that, but it's just like the demon is always going to try to like knock on your door, but through your strength and perseverance, of course, like you're waking up and be like, why would I ever do that? Ed Milet would have so much more respect for me if I said no.
Right. And if Ed asked me to be on there, he'd already know my story and he'd
Right,
already know,
exactly.
but it's crazy what your brain does. And I remember having
Yeah.
really in like the 3 4 5 probably year range, um having a lot of those kind of weird dreams, or having dreams that I like accidentally had a drink and I
Mhm.
threw off this streak
Yeah.
of like, oh, now I got to start at day one. Like,
Right.
why even start over if we're, you know what I mean? Like this mental, and my brain works that way too. Cause like when I've done 75 hard,
Yeah.
I get the same way. I'm on like day 30 and I'm having these night terrors that I forgot to, drink my water or take a picture. And I freak out and I jump up and I'm sweating and
Yeah.
no, it's all good. I did all my tasks. Like it's all good.
Yeah.
So it's super weird that there's a lot of those little things that are just,
Right.
you
Well,
kind
it's
of
kind
go
of
through
like
phases.
it's the it's lifelong work of changing the agreements that you made with yourself, back then, of changing your hardwire in your brain. That's why so many people do like, ketamine treatments to like expand the neural pathways in your brain to like really exploit those. That's just an example.
Mm-hmm.
Because those demons always want to come back because it's almost like muscle memory somewhere in there where it's like, well, I don't want to do this. I have addictive personality. Right. And that's, when I talked to Greg with his 25-year sobriety, he's still, there was battles, but he also said when he went through having a sponsor through AA, he had to be very selfish because he had to work on himself. He had
Mm-hmm.
to, and it's lifelong work, you know. My question is like when that whole happened, when you hit rock bottom and everything that you were doing was around God, like, did you know and feel like your prayers were answered and you got to change your life through that? Or did you just were like, okay, like that's just a sign. I don't know if it's God or not. I'm just taking this as a sign to get healthy.
Yeah. So honestly, like I love to say like, oh, I just felt like I was in the, spirit of the Lord and all these things, but I
Yeah.
really didn't. and it wasn't like I was like, oh, thank you, God. Like
Right.
there was kind of where I'm like, it stayed in the back of my mind, like, okay, that was for real. Like someone was watching out for me. Clearly there's something bigger I'm supposed to do.
Yes.
And I've always believed in God and I've always had faith in God. I just fell out of following, God or what he would want me doing. And then as I got further away, then obviously then I lost my, like,
Right.
I didn't really even think about that until and that's a lot of times there's a lot of people who don't, um, they don't pray, they don't do any of these things until something bad happens.
Isn't that
And then,
interesting?
and then they're like, well, if God's real, why would he let this happen? And it's like,
Mm.
um, and I think that was kind of where I went to. I'm like, well, now I got all this work to do, and I've got like I have faith in, I believe in God, and I believe in all of this, but like it was really hard to see for a long time because it wasn't like I quit drinking and like my life was just like back together.
Yeah.
It was really, really like there were some really rough seasons of it still. And there was a lot with my wife because there was a lot of things I had done. And there was even, I mean, even to this day, like I'm working on trying to make my marriage as good as it can possibly be, but I'm working on some of my stuff because I have like I have insecurities. I have like
Mhm.
I almost have trust issues
Right.
with my wife that are completely made up in my mind because of the life I lived.
Right.
So
That makes
like me being in the bar and seeing the bar and like all the worst of the things that living in like the bar scene has to offer.
yeah.
When she's like takes a trip somewhere or is planning a girls trip, all I'm picturing is the worst case scenario, that what I would see, past midnight at the bars when you're there all the
Right.
time.
Right.
And so for me now, that's something that I'm working. It's not fair to her at all. And I'm conscious of it and I actively work on it. Um, but I do still get
Yeah.
those feelings of like super like high anxiety thinking about her doing stuff where I'm not there to like watch her, protect her, which she doesn't need me to do any of that.
Right. Right.
Just now, like I've worked so hard on myself and I'm building such an amazing life for our whole family that I'm like, I feel like so much power is in her hands if she were to screw up
Yeah.
because of drink, because she still drinks. She's
Yeah.
never had a problem drinking. She barely drinks at all. She'll have
Right.
like a couple White Claws with the girls and, and put on her hood and rap to songs on the radio, just like exactly what I would be doing. Well,
Yeah.
not me. Someone that doesn't have a drinking problem,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
she just has a good time,
Yeah.
but then she quits drinking and then she's a lot of times doesn't drink the next day or for a week or a month or whatever. So that part's been for me, that's for sure been hard. And but I'm conscious of it. Like I work on it all the time and really
Right.
trying to, again, it comes down to trusting and then,
Right.
putting faith in, that she's going to be safe, not even just because of her, but just in general. Like
Right.
you can
Yeah,
always
you
be at the
have to
wrong
have
place at the
that
wrong
trust.
time.
You have to have that trust, but it makes so much sense because you know what goes on, but it's like it was also like you have to probably look at your life now and you have a different circle of friends completely.
Yeah.
So it was like you were around all the wrong types of people where your wife probably has really great girlfriends around her. So it's actually a different environment and different energy that she's going to be around. And if you just, as a family, practice self-defense and knowing what to do if shit hits the fan, then she's okay. But it's just this fuckery with your mind that likes to play these games because you used to play these games in your mind. And so that's your challenge now, is like rewriting that story and those agreements in your mind. And it's really, really hard. It's really,
Yeah.
really hard, but it wouldn't be hard. I mean, it's hard for a reason, right? It's
Right.
hard
Right.
for a reason, but it makes us the best people that we can become because of all these traumas and these tragedies that we do. And then it really also comes down to like, does Ryan Wheeler love himself?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, and that's such a huge, yeah, that's so powerful. And there's so many like
Oh,
layers so many layers to that, is like truly being able to look in the mirror and be like, that's a badass. Like that's a badass good dude. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's,
Work.
yeah, it takes work. So that's my podcast is actually called the Get Cocky Podcast. And one of the things when I got into the cars in the, like, so when I bought there's a little bit of the, I used to talk about like a Lamborghini all the time.
Mhm.
And I used to put it on Facebook. And this is back when I was drinking. I would be driving like a clapped out Honda Civic. And I didn't have any money. I'd make decent money, but I couldn't keep any of it because I was gambling and drinking and, like just living it up.
Yeah.
And I would always post about Lamborghinis. And I remember one of the things I used to say is, I will take my son to his first day of school, or his first day of high school in ninth grade, in a Lamborghini. And then I would say, I'd follow it up with, even if I have to steal the car. And that was like, I put that out there. I put it out into the world, and people are like, "Oh, okay, well, you'd have to steal it." And nobody was like, "Yeah, bro, chase your dreams," or anything. And then I would talk about, like, when I drive my Honda Civic and I'm shifting gears, I just pretend it's my Lambo. And I would
Yeah.
always talk about that. So then when I quit drinking and I knew I was willing to do anything it took, like,
Mhm.
I'd love to say it was only for like my family and my kid and my son and all this, but like I was fueled by so much, like, I need to prove these people wrong. And that was it. Like, I wanted a Lamborghini, and that was all
Yeah.
I gave a shit about. Obviously, I gave a shit about my wife. I was still working on that, and my son. But like, to me, like, I wanted a Lambo. That was what I was after.
I mean,
And
that's okay. Like that's part of like you playing that role for yourself of like, what can I do now? You know,
mm-hmm,
if that's the game that you had to play, that's the game you got to play
yep,
to like get to the next level, to get to a better level with your wife and your son, and to freaking drive a Lamborghini. And I know you got there. I know you
yeah.
did.
Yeah, I got there. I bought my first one, and like I remember that being like, oh, you're cocky, you're this, you're that, you're this, you're that, all these things. And I looked at all those like maybe I should play less of who I feel, who I am, to make these people happy. And I remember that being like a real thing. And I went back and forth in my brain like crazy about, this car. And I'm like, dude, I worked so hard for this. Like,
Mhm.
yes, of course I could have invested this money better.
Right.
100%.
Sure.
Never will I say that that it was a great investment
Right.
on paper. For me, is the best thing I've ever done in my life, because it led me to so many things. It gave me credibility in all these different places that then got me in front of people. My circle changed, and then my circle had a bunch of money, and then those people saw that I was a legit dude and that I meant well, and then they used me for anything they needed in their construction. So now, like, I work on all my friends that own buildings. Like, I put their roofs on, and I work on their roofs, and I service their buildings like
Right.
my company does.
Right.
And
That's a
like, so
really
much of that
interesting.
came from the networking from the car, and it's crazy.
Right. Well, and especially from quitting a toxic job and you're like, well, I'm still really, really good at that, and I can
Mhm.
still like change that vibe and those feelings into something even better because I accomplished this. And I think it's very interesting what you said, because people do this all the time. And this is where when you have to really separate yourself. When you're doing things and when you're leveling up and leveling up, you're going to drop some people and sometimes we feel guilty because sometimes these people in our lives we've been friends with for like 30 years, 40 years, whatever that may be. And it's like, well, I'm coming up here and I'm like, oh, I feel bad, because they are like still suffering at this level. And
Mhm.
people do this all the time. They're like, well, I don't want to feel, guilty for my friend. I don't want her to feel bad. Well, fuck that, man. Like you're going to do what you're going to do for you because you are you. You know what I mean? And if you don't level up here, you're never going to. If you're going
Right.
to feel guilty about everybody and how they fucking feel about you, you're never going to level up. You got to do you. And those other people are going to fall and your circles are going to keep changing and changing and changing. And that's what it's really about. I mean, it's really that separation of self. And, I was just talking about this, like, on my episode this week of like the mastery of love and like separating yourself to love yourself and to give to others and to do all these things. And it takes work. It takes dropping, your past and friends that are not going to support your dreams and goals. Like you have to be around those types of people.
Yep.
And
Yep. And it's like super cliche because you always hear it, and it's like if you're around 5 millionaires, you become the sixth one. And I've heard it forever. And to this day, I'm like, dude, that's real. The conversations change.
right.
And that's not just about money. This
Right.
is about like across the board with anything that you're trying to do and accomplish. And now it's so crazy because these people that I end up hanging out with, especially as of recently, it's like the people that end up close to my life, we'll be talking, I'd be like, yeah, no, I don't drink. They're like, yeah, no, I don't either. I haven't drank for 6 years.
Yeah.
Really? And like, we'll go and do these guys trips up to my buddy's land. And like, there's 3 of us and we have like your face hurts, like the gut laughs that you can't, it's painful.
Right.
And then we'll also have to where we're like 3 dudes up in the woods that are, broke down, like crying, trying to figure, go through these things.
Right.
But the one thing in common with is none of us drink. So here we are, away from our wives, away from anything. We could do anything we want. There's bars, there's whatever.
Right.
You can make any bad decision you want. No one's ever going to know. But these guys now in like my circle had the morals are there. Like people have, they don't live like that.
Is there.
Yeah. And they don't.
There.
Yeah. And it's and that's powerful. And I try to tell so many people, I've paid for so much coaching. I've joined so many different groups. I'm in like private coaching, one-on-one stuff. I've done so many of these things, and it's all just trying to just like, I want to just be at that next level and that next level. And I want to be better at being a husband. So that's where like this get cocky thing, like people are like, that's a little aggressive. And I'm like, no, I want it to be like, when I walk in somewhere with my wife, like I want to walk different than other men because I want him to see, like, I am so proud of her. I'm so proud of me. We've got our shit together and she's fucking hot and I love her. And I don't care if that looks cocky. I want to look cocky when I'm at school helping with the kids and with my, like, with my kids. I want people to be like, I want them to think I'm showing off because I'm such a good dad, and that's where I with my Get Cocky podcast, it's like, I want people to come on and to brag about themselves. Cause so many people will not get on and say like, well, I've done this. Like, well, they downplay it,
Right.
Like, fuck that. This is hard. That's hard shit to do.
Right.
Like, brag about it a little bit.
When you understand it more, you're like, damn, it's really, really hard, but it's just, being consistent. And also for you, it's using that addiction in a different way. It's using that addiction in a positive way. And like, you should be fucking proud. You should be walking a different walk because of how far you come. Like, and the only reason why like it's cocky is because other people think that, because they're jealous of what they see.
That's exactly it. Yep. Yeah, that's exactly it too. And that was like, so the Machine Gun Kelly is like he's like it's like my jam. But I did somatic breath work. Have you done much breath work?
Yeah.
Stuff?
So, I mean, I had, we had with the Lion's Den in October, Saxony did her women's event and she had Jen come in and we did breath work. And I was like, I'm done breath work before. Oh, fuck, I've never done breath. Oh my God. It was like life-changing. Like I felt like I was reborn. It's so therapeutic. And I actually, my partner, Daniel, and I are going to be doing it together next month.
So cool. So cool. Yeah. So I've always done, the Wim Hof stuff, the cold tanks, the ice water. I've done that. I've done, like you said, that's so funny to say, because I was like, I've done breath work. And Dr. Shannon came into the Ascend Brotherhood, Keith Yackey's group. I love
Keith.
Yeah. I'm going out to stay with him for 3 days. This weekend, actually coming up.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's and I think she's coming out to do the breath work again, but she had I had to sign like a little waiver, and I'm like, dude, bro, I'm like a tough dude. Like,
right.
And there's like me and like 11 guys. It's cool. Yeah. Like I'll do it because I'm here.
Right.
And then I'm like, wait, why would I hold back from this just because I think I've done this before? Why not just give it a try? Like she says, this is what she's here to do.
Totally.
And Keith starts telling me, he's like, dude, it's life changing. I'm like, oh, it's just
Mhm.
breath work, bro. Like, and you had to sign a waiver. I'm like, sign a waiver for breath work? Like, what am I gonna do? Stop breathing?
Yeah.
And holy shit, it blew my every single bit of my mind was completely
Right.
blown. And
Yeah.
that's where this get cocky, that's this whole office, like the whole thing all came to me in that breath work, and it like laid
Wow.
out. This sounds nuts. So there's gonna be people that are like, that's woo woo crazy shit. And it sounds like it, but literally in these phases of this breath work, one of them was showing me the things I was doing that I should not be doing business wise.
Mhm.
And it was like instantly, it was like, okay, now that those are out of the way, it was like I entered into another. And I mean, there was kicking and yelling and screaming, and people are crying, and I'm crying, and then I'm
Yeah.
clenching, and it
Yeah.
was so powerful, and a crystal clear business plan of exactly what I was supposed to do came. It was like remodel my whole offices, get a new vibe, new death, get rid of every single thing, declutter this whole place, which is so wild to see because I literally got home from this trip, like everything out. And my buddy who offices with me here, Caleb, who was there at Lions Den Live,
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? He like offices out here. I'm like, oh my, all the shit's going, dude. I got a vision. And I called my guy. I'm like, dude, I need a painter in here. I need to spray all the walls black. Here's what I want. But in this breath work, it showed me a crystal clear everything. And the Get Cocky was literally that name, the Get Cocky podcast and Get Cocky coaching was going to be like my thing. And I'm like, and I know it. No, I didn't want to have a different podcast. I wasn't looking to do anything different,
Yeah.
but it was crystal clear. It was so
I love
wild.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
breath work is so awesome because, just like what I was talking about before about treatments like ketamine or your hypnotherapy, how it just expands your neural pathways, breath work does too, and it's natural, and it's just like, when I did my breath work, I mean, I kind of was holding on to a lot of things. I was like, I'm fine, I'm fine. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh shit, and like, I was just like reborn that I'm enough,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm
Mm-hmm.
enough. I'm totally enough. And I love that. I love that Keith does that because um I also really, really love Bryce Prescott. And he went to like one of his like get-togethers and he
Yeah,
talked
last month.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he had a podcast of talking about brotherhood and how much it's missing from men in our society today because men are shamed for being men, but like you're so lucky that like you have this brotherhood, and I feel like that needs to be talked about more. And I just thought it was such a beautiful thing what Keith is doing and bringing brotherhood back. Like I was told my boyfriend that too because he's starting his podcast soon. And I was like, you need to talk about brotherhood too, because brotherhood is so important for men right now, more than anything, to like expand your minds and get emotional together, get active together, have conversations together. Because women do that all the time. I mean, we're just natural,
Yeah.
natural
Yeah.
at that, but like men, there's some things that we cannot talk to our wives about because we just don't understand. But in
Mm-hmm.
your brotherhoods you can. It's a release, it's a sense of release. And I just, on top of that, you had such a spiritual experience with breath work. I mean, I love breath work. My partner Daniel brought his 10-year-old daughter with him to a breathwork class with Jen.
Oh, cool.
She had this like amazing experience. So I had him come on my channel and talk about it because like you can bring your kids, you can have these amazing experiences with your mind to see things clearly. And I love that you did that, Ryan, because like, a lot of guys would be like, I don't need to do that, like, what the fuck is this, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just, I think you should be really, I mean, I'm really proud hearing all these things from you. It's beautiful, man. Like,
Yeah. And when I started sharing that online, like I was putting up all my videos, and there's a lot of people on like my Instagram that don't know who Keith is or aren't into the
right.
personal development space, and they follow me because of car stuff. And they're,
Yeah.
a lot of them that are kind of negative towards anything that's not car related. And they're like, oh, it's, foo-foo shit, weird shit. And when I was sharing like these videos and pictures, and it's like us and like we're all on e-bikes, and it's like 12 dudes, just mobbing through Orange County on e-bikes or wherever we were, Dana Point, and like down by Laguna Beach there. And we're just mobbing on e-bikes, and it was so much fun. And then we'd go back and we'd do some hard, like some real work,
Yeah.
like real work on ourselves, and we'd share, and people opening up, and then getting in front of, it's only 12 guys that you feel like are like your good friends, but still sometimes that's hard to share these issues that you're dealing with. And like we had to write our we had to write our whatever it's called, our eulogy from our wife's
like
point of view,
talks about all the time. Yeah.
and then read it.
Yeah, that'll kick your
And
ass.
like, oh yeah, like no matter how tough you are, whatever you think you like, it breaks you down pretty hardcore, and then to have these other guys that like I actually only knew Keith and maybe like one other dude at the first time I went.
Right.
And by the time I left, I had really what I felt like was like 12 really, really close people. And like, I mean, by the end of it, I was joking when we were first talking. He's like, yeah, if this weekend goes good, I mean, there'll be some grab ass in this thing. And I'm like, dude, bro, that's what I'm here for. Like, I'm here for that shit. And everyone's kind of like laughed. And I'm like, and literally by like lunch the first day, you guys are jumping on shoulders, and there's we went down on the beach and played spike ball, and it was like super aggressive.
Yeah.
Because they're your men doing
testosterone shit. And like,
yeah. And then a bunch of them are, they're all jacked. So I'm like, shit, I got to get jacked because these dudes are jacked. Like these dudes are in good shape, and it was, it was so neat. And now, I'll be going down there pretty much once a weekend for a year with them. And
it's so awesome. Like, I love that. I mean, just through following Keith, you can see that like, he really likes to bring the child out with his brotherhood, your child, like, feelings and freedom and being free men, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's fun. So that's like his,
and then we got to do the work, do that. And
that's one of his things is fun.
Yeah.
Fun. Like your wife, your spouse will look at you like, be fun.
Yeah.
And it's like, and to me, that was another thing in that breath work that really hit home, is like, man, I'm not always super fun. Like I've got a lot on my plate. I've got a lot of things I'm doing. I'm trying to build businesses. I've got all these things going on, and I come across, I'm not always fun anymore. And so just that simple 3-letter word to just kind of have like, like, am I being fun to be around? Do my kids think I'm fun?
Right.
And so that's it's powerful.
It is powerful because we do have to have fun. We need to have fun with our kids. We need to have fun with our partners, man. Like that shit should never die. You know what I mean? And it's just like, that's the thing when, you guys, when Ryan's talking about leveling up and being around the circle of friends, look what he's around now, like it's so powerful that you can come from here and be here and still like be on this journey of like, what else can I do? What else can I do? And I think that is just an amazing journey to be on, Ryan. And I'm just like, I'm so proud of you. Like, not that I know you that well, but it doesn't matter. Like, I feel like, even here on these episodes, I create like this circle of friends too, and through the den, like we're all family because we all want to level up with each other. And it's just a really beautiful thing to witness, to hear.
It's like Lions Den Live. I try to explain to some people about like when you're there, it was never like there was ever I never felt weird around anybody, or like, oh, I can't talk to that person, or I can't. Right. It was literally like you were walking around a whole town of like your people. Yeah. Like these are my people. Yeah. And then when you let out, there's people everywhere, and it's like everyone that, and you just saw where's my people? Like these are my people. These are my people. And they just, and there too, it was like they had a different vibe about them, and a different, just they walked different, they talked different, they interacted different. And like I was at the hotel in the morning, and we went down to go work out, and I think we did like 6 reps because right away we saw a dude, and he was in pretty good shape. He's doing some crazy CrossFit stuff. He's like, You here for Lions Den? I'm like, yeah, I am. Badass, bro. Me too. You know, and I'm like, I don't even have my Lions Den stuff on. Like, I don't have Lions Not Sheep stuff on because I just, threw on one of my own shirts to go work out. But
Yeah.
it was like that. You can just tell, you can see. And then by the time we went to leave the gym, there's like 7 of us in there. There's all BSing, and nobody got any work done. But,
And now you have another new tribe with like Keith and Brian, it's just like, it's just these tribes after tribes. And it's all this expansion of like love and kindness and being a man, and for women, it's being a woman and, being in your masculine energy and women being in their feminine energy and just being fucking powerful. I mean, it's like, that's how my boyfriend got into the den. Cause he, was having to do Uber at the time for, things that happen in his past life. And he picked up someone from Lions Den Live and he's like, that's my people, man.
yeah. Yep.
And it's just like, it's this whole snowball effect that we're trying to do. And I love that you're pushing yourself, out there to do these podcasts. I love that you push yourself to like hear what your wife had to say in your first episode. I think that is so fucking cool. And it brings like us closer together as human beings because we're all different, but we all go through these experiences and we can share them with each other and grow together. It's really cool.
Yep. No, I agree. And I think it's awesome. I love what you're doing. And I gotta get dug in now and go back and watch some of your stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I know that for me, like sometimes I'm like I was telling you in the beginning, like I'm like, who am I to do this stuff? And this is what Sean talks about all the time. It's like, well, who are you to do this stuff? You can do this. Like you have the opportunity to do it. Why not? It's like I've been behind the chair as a hairdresser for it'll be 20 years this year. And, people love to tell me things and I love to listen. And I'm like, well, why not? Why not share more? And why not help change the world? So yeah. I hope this grows, and I'm just going to keep being consistent and like,
it's so much work. So I respect so much what you're doing.
Yeah.
People do not understand.
Yeah.
It's a grind. It's a grind, but it's awesome. And I suffer big time from like the imposter syndrome. So I started my coaching group now. And I started it. I hired Wes Watson to help me with everything, paid a bunch of money. And now I'm in that imposter part again where I've got people that are like, hey, I want to pay you money to work with you. And I'm like, right. I don't know. It's hard for me to take money to help people because I'm like, I just want to help you. Right. And then I talked to Sean, I messaged Sean about it or say something to Sean about it. He's like, but you put in the work, charge it. You're doing yourself and them a disservice by not charging them. And I'm like,
right. Yeah. Cause you have to also keep building up yourself because you started from here and it's just all the levels of learning about yourself and learning that like people do want to listen to you, and I've had a couple people reach out to me and saying that like I've helped change your life. And I was like, okay, and it took a minute because I started this 1 week after Lions Den Live. And it took all the way, I think in like December is when someone really just gave me this voice text and this message. And then someone else said something and I was like, okay, I just got to keep going. And it's a beautiful thing. And everyone has something unique to teach. You have something unique to teach and that's unique because it's you. And so I'm excited. I'm going to share all this stuff with you guys in the link below. If you guys have questions, if you like cars and you guys like have issues of the past with addiction and you want to level up, he's your dude for your coaching group. I'm going to say that.
Anybody. I get back to everybody in my messages. I try to the best I can, but I try to get back to everybody, anything I can be of service for sure.
Yeah. And so your podcast name is Get Cocky.
Get Cocky, the Get Cocky podcast.
Get Cocky podcast, and your coaching group is the Get Cocky coaching group.
It's just Get Cocky coaching. Yep. And we're not on a platform yet. So I've been doing, it's like, I've got a couple different things we'll be doing. And then we're trying to get on Jadari. So I've got a call tomorrow.
Awesome.
Yeah. I've got a call tomorrow with someone from the team there to try to get on there. And I don't like with the coaching, I've worked with a lot of people and I've always worked with them for free. I've just helped them out. And
Yep.
so many of them are like living a different life than when I met them now, like such an amazing transformation. I'm like, and they're like, and those messages like you're talking about, when you get that message, that's like, thank you. You changed my life.
Yeah.
It's just like the biggest, there's no amount of money that can pay for that feeling. There's no, there, you could get a new, there's nothing
Yeah.
that can replace that feeling of someone being like, you changed my life. Thank you. And
It's so cool. It's
so,
priceless. It's
yeah.
priceless because I truly care. I'm very, very, very passionate, and you truly care, and you're very, very passionate. And we're out around all these people, and everyone is unique to that individual. And it's just that one person that we can help change their lives. And that I'm here for it, man. And I know you are too. And, again, Ryan, like if there's one more thing you got to say to the audience, what would that be?
Oh, just keep going. Just keep going through whatever you're going through.
Love
Just
it.
keep, that was our big thing with that last brand. I was just keep pushing forward. Just keep,
Yeah. Consistency for sure.
you got it. So
I appreciate you so much coming on here. I love this conversation. I mean, this was great. I don't even know how long it's been, but I don't
I have
even
no
care.
idea.
It's amazing. This has been such a great pleasure having you on my channel and everything like that. And you guys take advantage of myself and this channel, of what Ryan's going to be sharing with you with his podcast and his coaching group, and just a love of life, a love of family, and love for that Lambo. You know what I'm
Oh yeah.
saying?
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
It's been a, yeah, this has been great. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. And so I hope you have a good rest of your week and have a blast this weekend with your dudes, and be in the moment, man. Be present.
For sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll see you guys.
Thank you
Peace.
so much. Bye. Did I do it? Did I end it? Did I end it?
Says